What's up, YouTube? I'm back, and this time I'm talking about how I have no responsibilities, just bills. Now, you may say, hold on, bills are responsibilities too. They need to be paid on time, paid every month. You don't want to fall behind on bills. You lose your belongings that way, mess up your credit, every other thing. And I understand that. But then when I look at the people who have dependents, whether it be son, a daughter, a brother or a sister, a grandparent, a mother or a father or a friend, someone who depends on you, that takes it to a whole other level. And I take my hats off to all of you all that have dependents. I don't have any. And so you all got the dependents plus bills. If you have an adult dependent, you got to make sure that they probably getting their medicine on time. You got your kids. You got to make sure clothes are purchased, everything that they need, toothbrush, doctor visits, just having someone depend on you in addition to the bills, that's a whole nother responsibility. And so when I'm looking at just myself and just, and I keep my bills low as well, you got people who may not have any dependents, but still up to their eyes in debt. But, I manage my stuff, pretty well. And so when I look at it, it's just, compared to when I hear stories of people who have dependents, I'm like, you really don't have that much of a responsibility. Different responsibilities, but it's not just, you know, just pay the bills and that's it. Pay stuff off. I don't have any student loans. And so, it's almost not so much cruise control, but I'm not dealing with people and what they have to go through when you got someone that's depending on you to make sure they have clothes, to make sure they eat, to have a medicine, whomever it is, whether it's an adult dependent or it's your own son or daughter. And so I'm taking my hats off to those people, as I explained in this video, about me not really having any responsibilities, just bills. Bills can be tough for people depending on your situation, but once you paying those and then that's it, and now you're just on your own time the entire time, it's a lot easier. Whereas you got dependents and you got to kind of carve out time for yourself versus, okay, well, I'm done at the job, whether you work for someone or you work for yourself. Now it's just you. You might have someone you're dating, but that's an adult too. They can take care of themselves. It's a lot different where you have a dependent. And just listening to people who have to care for someone in their story and trying to work out daycare and putting their child in school, and if they're not with the other parent, how to schedule things like that and trying to figure it out. And if they're not able to work from home, even if you work for yourself, if it causes you don't have something that you make money online, you got your own business, but you have to leave home and commute, that's still taking time out of your day, and you got to fit that into where your children are going, or if you got a parent that you take care of, you have to get someone to help step in sometimes. It's a lot to try and plan when you have more than just bills, other responsibilities. And then on top of that, if the bills are sitting on top of your head, that makes it even more of a struggle. But yeah, I take my hat off to everyone who has someone who depends on them. I've never had anyone depend on me, meaning not just children, not just someone who needs my care and they live with me. Knock on wood, there's no one, family nor friends that needs that type of care. But I know people who, have children, if we want to start there with dependence. And then there's just other people out here who, are taking care of a parent possibly, or an older brother. Is just different things, a sister, to where now you have to make sure they're straight. I remember the barbershop that I used to go to, there was this guy in there and he would always bring his sister with him. He had to care for her. Their mother is in her 80s, he's in his 50s, and his sister is in the grown too, but she has a condition. She can walk and talk, but as far as how she thinks, it's not all the way there. I don't know what her condition is. She's a nice lady, and so he's got to make sure she's good. And mother being older, sometimes he checks on her when they go places. They were always with him. He's the designated driver. That's it. That's all. And he's in his 50s. He doesn't have any children, but his mother is still depending on him, and then his sister is still depending on him. So dependence isn't just son or daughter, it can be anyone. And there's just so much work that goes into it, and trying to find time, your me time for your mental health. Whereas when I look at myself and I'm just paying the bills online and then that's it, I have plenty of time to do what I want, whether just stay at home, just to think and be alone with my thoughts. It does a lot of good things for my mental, just trying to decompress. And if I want to get away from everything, there's not anybody that's going to be tugging on me saying, hey, can you help me with this, or can I have that, or I need help with this school project, things like that. And so for the people that are on that path where you have to make sure either you're raising your children, or maybe different, you got an adult dependent that you're not raising, but they have a condition where they cannot completely take care of themselves. And so add a child to that if you a parent, and now it's double. So again, my hat goes out to all of you who have someone who depends on you. I don't know what that's like, and we're not talking about lending somebody some money or things like that. We're talking about people who live with you all 365 days a year, and they're looking up to you to make sure they're straight with whatever they need. A true dependent. And so that's the circle you're in. That's the cards you've been dealt, and the hand you're playing. I give much respect to all of you, and just on top of the bills, I can't even imagine what you all are doing, and what you have to sacrifice, and just go through in order to make sure your daughter is straight, your son is straight, your brother or your sister who lives with you, maybe someone may be paralyzed. It could be anything. And that just makes things that much more difficult, and you just trying to push through it. Obviously, having a lot more money may make it easier, but everybody doesn't have that, especially if we're talking about hiring someone to help. That's expensive, so you might just be on your own. Especially even if you're not with the other parent. But like I said, the dependent might not be your child. The dependent might be a younger sister or something like that. But it's just so much that goes into it, and what you all have to persevere through, and trying to find time and budget things, and making sure not only are bills paid, but you got money saved and money for emergency. All of that money is definitely needed when it comes to dependence. Well, we all know that a child is expensive, but even if you're taking care of an adult, I'm sure that comes with other sacrifices as well, and what they may need for the reason that they can't operate on their own as a grown person. There's something missing that you now have to pick up the slack on. So to everybody out there who has dependents, keep pushing, keep going, and trying to break through and make things, a little bit more comfortable for yourself. Don't give up. In that position, you really can't give up. You have someone dependent on you. You can't let your children down. You don't want to let a parent down that you're taking care of. I know at times it may feel like a burden, even with just your own children, but push through it. It's tough. And don't dive in too deep. Take a breather and try and kind of look at everything and see, okay, what's the next step to make sure everything is running like a well-oiled machine, and that I do everything from a position of where it's efficient and it makes sense, it's practical. So you don't take, as they say, one step forward, two steps back. And that's not what we're about. So when I look at all of that and I just say, well, I just have the bills to pay, and it's not an enormous amount of bills either, where I'm just upside down in debt and all of that. You know, I don't have any student loans and no credit card debt, nothing like that. So, and looking towards what other people are doing, back to where I can go back and say, that's what I mean. I have no responsibilities, just bills. And then the rest of the time is mine. The rest of the year is mine. And that's where I'm coming from with this video at, in terms of saying, you know, and I don't know of anyone else who's in my shoes who also has no dependents, and they at least got their finances together, where even though it's just them, they're not upside down. If they feel the same way, like, man, it's almost on like autopilot. You just pay your bills and then the rest of the year is yours. That's it, that's all. You want to date someone, you can, but there's no one depending on you, and that's very different, especially right now and the way this world is. So again, I salute anyone who is taking care of someone, whether it be your child or another adult, a friend, and they're living with you. And by that I mean you can claim them on your income tax as well. Anyone out here doing that and has done it, and this is just basically like my salute to you all. Sometimes I don't know how you all do it. When I listen to stories of people who trying to figure out what's next in terms of the direction they taking their child and whomever they're taking care of. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments about more so the title. I have no responsibilities, just bills. Anyone who has no dependents, do you feel that same way? It was like, man, you just pay the bill online and then the rest is easy street? Or do you think, man, my bills are a tough responsibility for me, depending on how much you got to pay out each month? Let me know. To all my people who got dependents, you all can chime down in the comments below as well. Chime in the comments and just talk about your experiences with people who depend on you, and what you do to get by, to get through it, and how difficult it is or was if your children are grown, or like I said, if you got an adult dependent that they can't just grow up and move out, they're living with you. So let me know down in the comments what you all think. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Facts of Feelings, all one word, no spaces. Put that in a YouTube search, Facts of Feelings, all one word, and my channel comes right up. And again, salute to everyone out here who's has dependents and they making it do what it do and taking care of them and paying the bills. I'm out.